Scarlet Skies is one of the coolest sandbox-style games on Roblox that lets you gather resources,
This is gonna fucking blow up in your face.
build cities, fight in wars, and most importantly, design vehicles. One of Scarlet Skies' unique features is the ability to build models in Roblox Studio and load them into the game at any time. You haven't unlocked the full potential of the game if you haven't created and loaded a model into the game before. I'll be taking you through the process of creating a helicopter and solar power farm today to show you the basics of using the model building. You are going to need, at the very minimum, a PC to use Roblox Studio. Before starting this tutorial, just make sure you have Studio installed. Open up your search bar on Windows and just type in Studio and make sure it opens up like this. It should have already come installed with your game before. So yeah, now that you're at the screen, you're at a good spot. You just close out of it. Next, we're going to go to the Roblox homepage and search for Jadzi. Jadzi is the owner of the game, and she has a special creation that she has on her profile called Workshop. You don't need the Workshop strictly to use JolemTools, which we'll get to in a second, but this is a good fallback in case the plugin ever stops getting updated, or there's a new update that comes out and the JolemTools has not been updated yet. So we're just going to log in with Studio here. I'm sure you're going to have to do the same, and we'll be able to load into the Workshop just like this. So on the plugins tab at the very top of the screen, you can click manage plugins, click this little blue check mark, and make sure the toolbox is in plugin mode, and you just type in JolemTools. And if you see this icon pop up, you got the right one. If you can't find it, just click the link in the description. I'll have it so nice and easy for you to download. And once you install it, it should be in your plugins menu, and it should be enabled with that green little slider. And I could just open up the menu again, verify that it's in fact installed in my studio. And if it's installed properly, you'll see these three little icons: tools, configure, and menu. So I'm going to move over my configure and tool menu over to the left side of the screen, and then I'm going to add in my windows of property and explore on the right. This is just my traditional way of making models. And so I'm just going to delete this sign here because we don't need it. And I'm going to move over the menus to the left and the right of the screen so I have more area to view. I could move around the studio by using my WASD keys, Q and E to go down. Of course, then the WASD is pretty traditional. I could also scroll with my scroll wheel to move back and forth, to go really fast or slow down, just for finer movements. Two other keybinds we'll be using pretty often are the R and T keys for rotating and tilting respectively. So I first go to the spawn menu in order to spawn in a new part, in order to make this helicopter that we're going to try and make here. So I'm going to first go with the steering seat, because that lets you control the vehicle, right? So I change the mode of the steering seat to mouse, so wherever I click in the game is where the steering seat will point to, and I change the speed to 1.5. Now I try and move the steering seat. So I go to the home menu and I use these keybinds 1, 2, 3, and 4 in order to select, move, scale, and rotate. So right now I'm moving it up just a little. Next, I'm going to try and put some keybinds on my helicopter here. So if you attach a button to a steering seat and then you add a keybind, like for example Q here, you essentially add keybinds to your vehicle. So I can use Q to increase the throttle of my engine when I add it, and E for my next button over here in order to decrease the throttle. So I'm using the Control D in order to duplicate that button, and then I use the Move tool in order to move it, because when you duplicate a part, it spawns in the same position. So right now I'm adding some polysilicon. So the Q keybind has to activate, and then the E keybind has to deactivate. So this will increase and decrease the throttle on the controller, which I'll spawn in right now. So it's really simple using JolemTools. I'm just going to resize this to fit between the polysilicon right here. Maybe flip it around a little so I can see it better once I resize it. Yep, I use the rotate tool. So you could use the 4. You hit 4 on your keyboard, or you could just click the rotate tool. So next it's time to add an engine. You have to make sure the engine is welded to the controller in the back in order for it to control its speed. I want to make this a little taller because I want to sit in the seat and not get clipped by the rotor blades. It's not a good time. So yeah, I'm going to add a rotor right here. It spawns in a very funky angle, but that's alright. You just want to rotate it so the little swash plate at the bottom is touching the engine. So I'm having some difficulty trying to put it onto the engine. What I like to do is like to use Control X and Control V. So once you click a part and you hit Control V, it'll spawn it right on top of it. Alright, so next I'm going to go and create a container. This is where the fuel for the engine will be stored. I'm going to resize it so it's bigger. I don't know, like something like 500 units of fuel is pretty good. Could probably get you around the map, wherever you need to go. Oh, it's not symmetrical. I'm going to adjust that a little. So I'm using, you can see I'm quite rapidly scaling and moving my stuff around. I'm just using the keybinds 2 to move and 3 to scale. Alright, so the engine needs to be a little taller. So I'm going to move it up a little, the rotor, and increase its size. In terms of studio settings, I like to keep collisions off, joint surfaces on. I don't screw around with the physical settings. In terms of like rotation degrees, I like to keep 45 degrees and 1 stud of spacing when I'm moving my models around, because the game is based around 1 stud blocks. So that's like the minimum size for many parts that you will find in the game. So you want to stay with that. Alright, so let's add a floor to our helicopter. I just spawned a piece of aluminum here. And I'm going to use the 3 keybind in order to go to the resize tool like that. I'm going to resize it so it's long enough for the helicopter. I'm going to resize it so it fits. So yeah, now our helicopter can use some legs. So in order to add wedges, you just go to JolemTools, you click aluminum, and then you click the wedge part, and it'll spawn a nice wedge for you. And the same thing goes for wheels. You can see I'm having a hard time trying to clip the wedge on, but you just got to grab a corner and make sure it touches the other corner, and you'll get it back on. So now I'm going to rotate around this wedge here so it makes it look like a better leg. I could rotate it 180 degrees around like that. Yeah, perfect. So that's like one leg. I could use Control D once I highlight over everything in order to create another leg. And then I could highlight over these again, rotate it around first, and Control D it to copy it to the other side. You could also use a mirror plugin if you get something like that in order to create your models faster. So now let's add an actual leg. Like a little skid at the bottom. We could just do that, resize. I like to use the Control D keybind a lot in order to duplicate parts, and then I just move them around, resize them to what I want. Let's color it. So if I select everything here, by holding the Shift tool while I highlight, I could highlight exactly what I want. Legs here. Here I'm using Control, so I Control click each part that I want to select, so I could color them the same. So that's how I color my models. So that's our helicopter right there. Alright, so now that we've made our helicopter here, let's make a little solar panel farm just to illustrate what JolemTools can do. So I'm going to make my solar panel 40 studs long and 40 studs wide. So I can see that I'm at the maximum malleability by that little number at the bottom, the 1600 out of 1600. That's the maximum malleability of the solar panel. Then I can add a lithium cell here. It'll store the energy from the solar panel. I can just weld it onto the solar panel here. I can see it has 100 units of malleability, so I'm going to resize it, I guess, like 5 units of width and then 4 units of length. That gets me 4 times 5, that's 20. So 100 divided by 20 gives me 5 units of height. So that's a maximum size lithium cell right there. And I can just weld it as I please. All right, to actually load your models in the game, you're going to want to select what you want to load in. So I'm going to load in my helicopter here. I'm going to hit Control G just to make it a model, make it easier to select. And then when I want to compile it or convert it into text that I can load into the game, I just hit compile and I can copy and paste that code over. With the model code copied, I just go into the import menu, Control V to paste it in, and then I click load. That's all I have to worry about. So I just grab my conveniently equipped fuel can, I touch the container to transfer the fuel in, and then I hop into the steering seat. And then I just spam Q to increase the engine's throttle, and then I'm able to take off. And it's really just as simple as controlling where your mouse is to control the angle of the helicopter. So that's your most basic vehicle. So I'm just going to move this over. Once you group something, it will not be compiled. So you have to select it again in order to compile it. So I'm going to move my solar panel power cell up, compile it, and now I can load this into the game, just like that. I click open the import menu, paste it in, I click grounded yes, and then I click load. And now it's grounded to the terrain. So let me move this out of the way. If you ever want to bring your model back into the game, you can just copy and paste your code, hit decompile. So that convert the string of characters into models that you can put into Studio. So the next thing we could do in Studio is create C-joints or constraint joints. So I'm going to spawn this piece of wood over here and create a spring between these 2 blocks of wood. So I'm going to hold or select the part I want to create a spring on, click the spring menu, and then click the other part to form a spring joint. And you can see that in the little window that appears down here. And I can compile it and load it into the game as I please. If I ever want to get rid of the C-joint, I just click this little red X here and it highlights the joint that you want to delete. So it's very helpful. So let me just move this aside. And let's move on to our next connection, which is the hose. We could use the hose connection by using the rope C-joint. So if I create a pipe and connect it to another pipe, I could create a rope between the two, and that'll be converted into a hose. It'll allow it to transfer fluid. So let me just add a faucet to this other pipe here. And I'll be able to create essentially a connection that is not welded to another pipe. So this could be very useful in creations where there's moving parts. So yeah, that's how I create my rope or hose as it gets converted to in the game. So let me just move this out of the way. Another useful thing that we could do is create a turret. So I'm going to use a motor here because it can have multiple connections to different C-joints. And the one we want to use in particular is called rods. So rods are rigid connections. I could put a steering seat on top of my turret so I can be able to control it. I'm going to change the mode to mouse so I could easily point to where I want this motor to point to. And I'll get to how we actually attach it to the ground. So I'm going to spawn in this piece of iron here and resize it so it's nice and small. Then I'm going to select it, move it to where I want it to go to link, create a rod, and then click the motor. And once I've done that, I can just duplicate this piece of iron again to create another leg for the turret. And then I could just duplicate it again. And so motors can host a lot of C-joints, so they're pretty useful in this application. So right now, I have a nice turret base that allows me to rotate pretty much anywhere I want without any concern about like limitations of degrees of freedom and things of that nature. You could also add an image to a sign by going into the toolbox, copying an asset ID, typing an ID:, and then pasting the number in. Now it's time to save our workshop file. Just hit Ctrl+S on your keyboard and it'll open up the save menu. You can put in a name. I'm just going to put in my models here. Probably turn off team create, data sharing, and then just click save. This should create a cloud saved file that is attached to your Roblox account, which you can access pretty much anywhere. Exit out of Studio right now. I'm going to go into the main menu and I can see my save file is here. It is in fact saved. But I don't like to count on Roblox's cloud storage services, so I will, just for the benefit of the doubt, just save my file to a file. So I click Save to File, and then I choose a name, which I could then put into one of the folders on my computer. So I guess I have this project folder here on my computer right now. I'm just going to put in my models.rbxl, perfectly good name, and there we go. My file is backed up. You're going to want to have an easy way to store your model codes so you can easily copy and paste them into the game. I use Google Sheets for this because it's free and easy. That's all there is for this tutorial, and I hope I gave you some tools and skills to go out and make some of your own models. I hope to see them in game.